Coming up on today's show.
I think a lot of people can. So how are we going to manage mail for a hectic household?
So one of the things that I always recommend to my clients is to actually process it as you're bringing it into the house. So you really want to look at what is worth keeping and get rid of the junk as quickly as possible.
Now, do you do that like when you're like right at the front door, or do you have a place to do that? Or?
So I recommend that you have some type of household mail processing system.
Managing mail for hectic households. Today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we are going to be managing our mail load. You know, everyone gets the mail in and there's still a lot of that coming into our households. But how do we manage it? Well, to help us with that today is Shannon McGinnis. She's a certified professional organizer with organizedforsuccess.com, and we are in Studio B, which is our live in studio. So we're glad to have you here. You're from Minnesota, correct?
I had just moved to Minnesota about 3 years ago, and I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Where were you before that?
California.
Okay, well, that's kind of a big jump. How did that transition go for you?
It was a big transition, but I grew up in New Jersey, so I grew up with winter, and luckily I know how to drive in snow, so that part of it wasn't a huge transition.
Yes, and we like to hopefully we can teach more and more people how to drive in the snow. That's what's frustrating for some of us here.
Yeah.
But today we're going to talk about mail once it gets into your house. I mean, people say, well, you know, with everything digital now, we're losing all the paper, but no, I still in my mailbox get a lot of stuff, and some of it's important, of course, some of it's junk. So hectic household, I can relate to that. I think a lot of people can. So how are we going to manage mail for a hectic household?
So one of the things that I always recommend to my clients is to actually process it as you're bringing it into the house. So you really want to look at what is worth keeping and get rid of the junk as quickly as possible.
Now, do you do that like when you're like right at the front door, or do you have a place to do that? Or?
So I recommend that you have some type of household mail processing system, ideally within arm's reach of a trash can, your recycling bin, or a shredder, whether it's a real active mechanical shredder or if you just have a bag for shredding. A lot of places now, like banks and Office Max and office supply companies like that, accept shredding, and you can just pay to have it shredded. But shredding is equally as important as trash and recycling because of the credit card offers that you receive in the mail. Those kinds of things you want to shred immediately.
Well, some people think that shredding is important, and is there like certain things you should shred and certain things you shouldn't, or is it more efficient just to shred everything? What are your kind of criteria for shredding?
So typically the criteria for shredding is anything that has your full account number on it. A lot of investment accounts have the full account number on it. Anything that has your signature on it, and sometimes still there are some credit card receipts that have your signature on it. So also, in addition to processing the mail, when you empty out your wallet, you really want to look and make sure anything that has your signature on it that you're not keeping for tax purposes gets shredded. Okay. Also, anything certainly with your social security number. Most medical institutions now block out the first 5 numbers and just leave the last 3. But anything that has your full social security number, account number, signature. And then, as I mentioned, it's really important to also shred the credit card offers, because what can happen otherwise is the credit has been taken out in your name, you're pre-qualified for that amount, but someone could search through your recycling bin 5 a.m. and fill out the form saying that you've recently moved to their address, and now you may have an unbeknownst to you credit card opened in your name going to someone else's house who is running up that bill.
Okay, so really the first step is just kind of processing it in. We're going to shred all the important documents. Then where do you go from there? So when I say important documents, the ones you don't want to keep, or the offers and things like that.
Sure.
Where do you go after that step?
So the next step, so part of that very first step is to get rid of anything you don't want. So recycling is absolutely an important part of that as well. Some people, even though you have a magazine subscription, you're not going to get to read that magazine. Some people receive a ton of catalogs. Somehow they just get on this massive mailing list and they just receive a lot more catalogs than they want. There are solutions to get off of mailing lists like that for credit card offers and catalogs and magazines and things like that. But absolutely recycle anything that you don't need to keep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we kind of gone through that piece. Now, how about distribution, or what's the next thing after we've kind of sorted the good from the bad?
Yeah. So now you're left with everything that's still important to you that you want to keep.
Okay.
So some things need immediate action. For example, bills. Okay. So all of your bills should be corralled in one place, whether you pay your bills once a month or twice a month or whatever your bill paying frequency is. But the other category that goes along with bills is most people have a lot of their bills on automatic bill pay now. Mm-hmm. So if you open it up, you technically don't need to pay it. It's on automatic bill pay. You're just looking at the amount to make sure that it's within reason. Some bills are the same amount every single month, and some vary. Mm-hmm. So looking at that, then the next category would just be to file. So if it's a bill, you want to look at, do you need to pay it? If you don't need to pay it, do you want to file it? If you're not running a household business, you may not want to keep all of your utility bills, things like that, your cable bill. There isn't really a reason. You want to keep one for the account number and the way to contact them, but otherwise it's not so important.
Yeah, now, don't most utilities also have the ability for you to go either online or call them and get a copy of a previous bill? So there's really no reason to just keep every single bill, especially when it's auto pay, right?
Exactly, and you bring up a great point. I mean, what's going to create ease in this whole entire process is actually if you are paperless, especially on investment accounts, automatic bill pay, things that you can monitor online.
Okay.
Bank statements, absolutely.
What do you think about scanning certain documents just to hold on to them? Or is there some criteria that you need to put in place so that, maybe like you say, you look at, the price is okay, it can be thrown away, no reason to scan it because you can always access it from the vendor or whatever. Mm-hmm. So how would you decide what to scan and then maybe toss?
So you do want to be cautious about scanning too many things because that just creates a lot of electronic clutter. And people may or may not have created file systems to manage each of their scans, which is usually a JPEG file. But the reason to scan things, if you are wanting to move more and more towards paperless, is so that you have an electronic copy. Most people need to keep things for tax purposes. And if you go back to your bank 5 years ago, they're going to charge you for all of those statements. Mm-hmm. They're not going to keep records for usually more, depending on the bank or the investment company or anything like that, for more than 1 to 3 years for you to have free access to it. So anything that you need, even mortgage statements, as long as you have the end of the year statement that shows your entire interest that was paid that year, mm-hmm. then that's just one paper to scan or one document.
Now, as far as scanning goes, just to get a little deeper into that,
sure.
Would you recommend that's the point in time when you scan, or maybe you say, I have 5 documents I want to scan, I'm going to put them in a to be scanned file, or is there any protocol like that you would recommend one over the other?
I think it depends on the person. I really think that some people are very comfortable with new technology, and I mean, there's even features now you can just take a photo of it with your smartphone or any kind of tablet or something like that, and so you don't need a scanner that you feed the paper through. Okay. But also most households have all-in-one printer, copier, fax machine. Most people aren't faxing as much now, but most of those all-in-one machines have a scanner. Okay. To me, you also want to ask yourself, what is your time worth? Because if you have all the papers that you were going to scan by year, you only need to keep tax supporting documents for 7 years. So maybe you just have 7 folders for each of those tax years. It's everything that supported the numbers that are on your tax return. So anything that you've claimed, you need the tax supporting documents for it for 7 years. And maybe you don't scan it. But some people really love it right away, and then they don't have the bulk. Right. And so that's the exact same principle of your scanned files. Just create taxes 2014 folder, and everything goes in there.
Is there a scanning system that you recommend to your clients at all? Or like if someone said, I'd like to get into scanning, I mean, is it just the phone, or what's the system that you like to recommend?
Again, it depends on what people's comfort level is with technology. It also depends, some people travel a lot, and so a portable scanner is going to be important for them. If they have an all-in-one, they already have the technology, and to use that. There are companies, and it also depends on what type of computer program you use, whether you have a Mac or a PC. But there are scanners. Neat Receipts is one that most professional organizers recommend because it can be PC or Mac applied. You need different software for it, but that works. They also have a portable version. And scanner technology has greatly improved. So now, because receipts and things like that have a lot of fine details, they are able to read the things that you scan much more accurately.
Now, I'm assuming that you're going to recommend that once you've scanned something that it's stored on the cloud, maybe not on your local computer.
Correct.
Or is that what you're basically?
Absolutely. You don't want to have it hardware specific, located only in your home. The reason that you are scanning it is so that you're paperless, and also that you're not tied to that hard drive, especially because you're backing it up for 7 years and technology changes so quickly. So having it safe in the cloud is a much better option.
Okay, well, we're just to the point where we've gotten in the door, we've got the mail in the door, we've shredded a few things, we've kind of got the important papers put to the side, but we got to take a break.
Okay.
So when we come back, we're going to get into more mail management tips for the hectic household, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking to get your office organized but don't know where to start? And what can you really do to keep your office organized? Smead has put together a new ebook to help you answer these exact questions. We've compiled the best tips from professional organizers around the country to help you tackle the most common office organizing challenges. Go to smead.com/office organization and get your free copy today. That's smead.com/office organization. The new organization for the office ebook from Smead, keeping you organized.
We are back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about mail management tips for the hectic home. Before the break, we're joined, by the way, with Shannon McGinnis. You are with OrganizedForSuccess.com, certified professional organizer with NAPO. So we've kind of, like I said before the break, we've got the mail in, we've sorted out, we've shredded some stuff, we've taken the important papers, put them aside. Maybe going to scan some if that's what we're going to do, or put it in our file to... What's really the next step after we've got that pile of important papers?
So once you've taken out the trash, recycling, and shred, and you have removed the bills, that's what we've talked about so far. You need some more categories because you have invitations or, different mail for different people in your household. We're just talking about one person sorting it right now. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to use a prop.
Okay, you can.
Because I love it and it's beautiful. The cascading wall file. So this clear pocket is a really great system for the bills because you could put stamps and return address labels, something like that in there. Mm-hmm. I also really recommend that each person has their own folder if they receive mail. Okay. The other thing is that if you have children in your household, which we both do, we were talking about that if they go to a certain school, you can have all the school information here, because a lot of times they'll get the calendar year, a directory, things like that, the scheduling. So having a pocket for schools, but then thinking about other things. We were talking about invitations. So maybe you have a folder for upcoming events, and we all get in the mail those different catalogs from the different towns or cities that we live in of all the different programs happening on weekends and things like that. So maybe you want to have something of like upcoming events or things to schedule. That would be a great next category. The other one is we often save envelopes for the return address. So having some type of addresses or contact information, that is sometimes why we save things. Another category I often recommend people who receive a lot of catalogs is that they rip out the page that they actually want to order something from, and whether they call the category gift ideas or future purchases, really paring down and keeping only the things that they want. And every single page of a catalog has their contact information at the bottom. So that's always easy. So really, in utilizing something like this that has a beautiful system, but that really for you is customized to what is in your family of things that you might be using.
Yeah, the only problem in my family is that all the girls want the pink folder, so they have to fight over who gets that one. The other question though I have with that is that there probably has to be a system for emptying this out, because this can't just be a file cabinet catch-all. So
No.
do you have any tips on like how you train your kids or yourself or your spouse, how often they need to go in here and check in on things?
Sure. Well, what I love about something like this is that at a certain point, you've reached the threshold, right? This can't expand anymore or you're going to break it. And so everything has a threshold, whether it's your, your bills. What I love about this is some type of frequency, whether you pay your bills once a month or twice a month. When you pay your bills, that can be the catalyst for emptying out everything else, and that everybody else needs to process their mail. Also, it could be when the prescriptions get refilled, or you're scheduling things, you need to RSVP to one of the invitations that we're talking about, because really you want to empty this at least once a month. So have your bill paying frequency be the trigger for that. Or if they are absolutely overstuffed, because you could have a category here for things that you want to read, but the truth is that that's going to fill up really fast.
Right, and it's going to get really big really fast.
Yeah.
So that's a great tool. So is our mail sorting done at this point? Is there a step beyond this? Any other further maintenance that comes after this, or is this?
Well, again, this is a customized system for you and your household, right? So you want to look at what's left, right? So you get the idea with the colors. So talking about what's left, give me some examples of what you would have left in your household.
Well, how about things that, and this is maybe not mail management either, but things that you need to get back to, that you need like a reminder of. Because obviously we talked about earlier, some things you can deal with right away, bills you put in, but is there a way in your system to try to remember to do things, even as simple as paying bills?
Yeah, so I keep my calendar electronically. Do you?
I have both.
Okay, great.
We have a family calendar, which is actually paper, and then we all have it in our phones, but everything is on the one big paper calendar. Okay,
great. So let's talk about both ways, right? Because the paper calendar would be a great thing to hang right next to this, right? So everybody can see it. And that way you also can put maybe in a bright colored ink, pay bills. I would recommend twice a month. And when you pay the bills, and every month you get your new wall calendar. It's almost time for a new wall calendar, and you write in there twice a month. Maybe it's the 1st and 15th, so that you remember, or maybe you do something closer to like the 12th and the 26th, because you have bills that are due mid-month and closer to the end of the month. And that way, you have a written reminder on your paper calendar that is right next to your mail sorting system. With electronics, what's great about electronics is that you can set reminders. And so you can have a reoccurring monthly reminder. It can be every week, it could be every 2 weeks. It's really easy. You type it in once and you set the reoccurring reminders, and then it's always there for you.
Great. Have we covered all the tips for the hectic household? Because I want to make sure we've covered it all.
So some of the things that I run into that is sometimes tied to mail is memorabilia. So some things come into the house, especially, you and I both have kids, and part of the mail sorting is emptying out the backpacks. And they come in and it's like, oh, there's permission slips, or there's new schedules, or there's letters from the teacher, and really looking at that when they empty out the mailboxes, and what are some of the things that you want to keep, because emptying out the backpacks, what do you want to keep? And so a lot of times there's art projects in there too. So memorabilia. So that also tends to usually end up on the kitchen counter if it doesn't have a designated space, and that's why those really colorful folders, just like you were saying how everybody's going to fight over the pink one, but really finding a place that you can stash memorabilia quickly and easily. At least the 8.5 by 11 pages will go into any standard, we were talking about the hanging file pockets, but any standard file folder. Then when you have art projects that are huge or they're like cumbersome and 3D, those macaroni glued on creations.
Or then the big cardboard tubes, right?
Yeah, exactly, or the giant science poster. Then you have to decide that you have to make an exception to that. But most of the things that come out of the backpack are going to be able to fit.
Yeah, and actually I was thinking about, originally we were just talking about mail out of the mailbox, but mail comes into your house in many forms. It comes in backpacks, it comes, door hangers. There's all kinds of different pieces of paper that enter your house, not just through the U.S. mail.
Right, and that was some of the things that we mentioned, as far as cleaning out your wallet, where did the receipts go? Some receipts are for tax purposes, some receipts, most of the time, groceries and things like that, you can recycle right away. So again, having that one place where you stand that is trash, recycling, or shred comes in really handy, because you might not want to save all of the macaroni art projects or things like that discreetly.
Well, we're almost out of time here. I do want you to mention your book, because you have a book about household organizing tips, at least one of your books, right?
Yeah.
So let's do that, and let's also tell people about your business, how they can get a hold of you, your website, and what kinds of clients you work with.
Wonderful. So I have written 2 books. The first book I wrote is called The 10-Minute Tidy, 108 Ways to Organize Your Home Quickly.
Nice.
And it's really one of those things that is broken down into things that you can do on your own in 10 minutes. So very helpful there. If someone's interested in that book, the website is 10minutetidy.com. And then my business also has its own website, organizedforsuccess.com. And right at the very beginning, when you and I were talking about, I am here in Minnesota now, but I also still have my business in California. So I work with clients both in California and Minnesota.
Do you do that during the winter time?
I try to space it out for my clients' needs. So I go back to California every 4 to 6 weeks. And but it is wonderful to go back during the winter.
Great.
And so I do both residential and business clients in both locations.
Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I know we're going to have you back again to talk more tips, but thanks for stopping in Studio B today.
Thank you so much.
Great. Well, that is it. Mail management tips for hectic households. I hope you're going to declutter that mail and feel a lot better. And we thank Shannon McGinnis for joining us today on Keeping You Organized.
Coming up next time on Keeping You Organized.
I find that some of them, they have items they don't want, and it's very easy. They're happy to get rid of them. But then there usually are some things that they struggle to let go of. And there are a couple of different reasons why they are probably struggling. So what I try to do is identify what's really the reason that they're having a tough time. And once we know what the real reason is, then we can come up with a plan to solve it so that they can let go of the items.